With almost 2 months staying at home, throughout this time of the virus, your self-care habits probably have taken a major hit while you've been learning new ways to teach, new ways to parent or to homeschool, and just to take care of yourself and those around you. And so today I want to talk about, how you can create productive pairs of self-care so that you don't have to devote as much time to doing it, but still get all the benefits of taking the time for yourself to make sure that your body and your mind and your spirit are still energized and going strong throughout this time and however long it takes. And so I know that self-care doesn't have to be productive, right? It can just be relaxing or it can just be fun. But I know that some of us struggle with feelings of guilt or that we just don't have the time to just take time for ourselves. So I do want to offer you 3 suggestions of how to pair up self-care activities to make them both great for yourself, but also productive as well. So let's get started with these 3 tips. For those of you who are new here, my name is Erica Romero from Ever Educating, and this channel is mainly about teaching tips and tools and resources for new college instructors, but as well as some grad school advice, because I know that grad students are the ones who are often put in the teaching position without much training or support. And so in this case, we're talking more about self-care than we are about teaching, but if you are interested in more teaching tips, go ahead and make sure you subscribe below. So the first tip I have for you is the one that requires the least amount of productivity. It's more just fun. And this is to go outside, right? So get some sun, get some fresh air. So that's the productive, healthy part of it. But do something that you just really enjoy. So maybe this is playing a game. It can be reading a book. It's really up to you to decide. Personally, I play The Sims 4, or I just read some fan fiction or watch some YouTube videos on my iPad while sitting out and getting that sun and fresh air. And so again, it doesn't take much work. If it's too cold where you're at, then honestly this can be a struggle. Maybe you do it for shorter periods of time. But I still really recommend taking that time to get outside and not just stay inside for 24 hours a day, because that can get really overwhelming and really depressing long term. And so following that, if you want to get a bit more involved when you're outside, then my second suggestion is to do some exercise while listening to a podcast. Okay, so in this case, it's obviously exercising, so going for a walk or a light jog or run, right? Just anything that you think will help you while being outside or even inside if you want to exercise inside. But while you're doing it, you can listen to a podcast. And if you don't enjoy exercise, then you can find a podcast that you do enjoy listening to. And so I have some podcast suggestions that you can see above, and those are teaching related and productivity related podcasts. But maybe you'll find one that you just enjoy listening to rather than getting more education out of. Though if you want to be more productive, you can find those educational podcasts as well. And so here, a lot of times if you're watching like a clip on YouTube, like Bagalati's to do an exercise routine, she has music going, but I just mute that and just follow along with her steps and then listen to a 15-minute or half-hour podcast episode, and that really keeps me going, knowing that I'm, doing 2 things at once. That's great for me, for my mind in the podcast and for my body with the exercise. Now, if that's something that you don't, it's too much going outside, too much exercise for your taste, then my third tip is to pair up, Zooming or being social with Facetime or Skype or whatever the case may be, and do it while, again, my suggestion is doing it while cooking. So while you're doing some cooking prep, you're cutting your veggies or you're cutting your potatoes into bits to put into your crock pot, whatever the case may be, take that time and just call somebody up, right? Spend that 15 minutes or half an hour just catching up with them, maybe a group of people, right? Your friends from a certain area, and just see, you have the time, right? Unless your cooking is really intense and complex, you can go ahead and set up your phone somewhere on your kitchen counter and then just go ahead and cook and prep while, talking to them and seeing how everybody's doing. So if cooking is something you do, then you might find other ways of doing this. So maybe you're cleaning your room and you're FaceTiming, right, or Zooming and talking to that person. So if you don't want to, right, if you just want to you sit down and you call somebody and talk for a while, of course, do that. That's a great example of self-care and also caring for the people around you who you really love. But, if, again, you have that feeling of guilt, like, no, I can't waste too much time doing all this because I have so many other responsibilities that are keeping me, constrained, then, again, match up more than one self-care activity for you. And so these are just 3 ideas, and if you're gonna use them, go ahead and click like and let me know. If you have your own suggestions for pairs of self-care, go ahead and comment below so we can all benefit from them. But again, if you don't want to be productive during your self-care, don't feel that you have to do that. This is just for those of you who, again, are feeling stressed or anxious about taking too much time for things that you consider to be not worth the time. It is worth the time, you are worth the time, but here's some suggestions to get some productivity out of these self-care activities. So I'll be back next week with a new video. If you ever have any suggestions for videos, you can go ahead and click the link below in my description box and suggest aspects of me to talk about related to teaching or to grad school or productivity or the case may be. I'm happy to hear from you about those topics that interest you the most.